Thank you for joining me on this late hour. We won't keep you long, but I thought it was important to get this message out before the end of the day. Today, the ALC, the Legislative Council, declined to favorably act on the DYS contract. As you know, the incumbent contract is set to expire December 31 of this year, and notices have already gone out to the 190-plus employees of the incumbent contractor that their employment ends at the end of this year. A little bit of the history here. This was an open bid contract that was competitively bid and then rebid after protest. And then after the re-award to the same company, the contract award was again challenged and the protest was then denied. At that point, it was submitted for legislative review, and today the ALC declined to support the contract. We are currently headed for a government shutdown of youth services because there is no contract. And there will be no employees after the end of this year unless action is taken. Director Gillespie, supported by her team, and Director Walther, supported by his team, have worked today diligently to come up with a solution that's been presented to me and I have approved. First of all, the state, through its team at DHS, will move in and operate the DYS facilities at Dermott, at Louisville, at Harrisburg, Colt, and Mansfield. Our team will work through the weekend to help in the transition, and on Monday, teams will be in place to assure the employees that they will have a job after December 31, and to assure the 176 youth and their families that they will have proper care and protection. We will continue to provide these services and manage the programs for the next 6 months, and then during that time we will evaluate the potential and advantages of returning the contract to the private sector. These are the steps that we have taken today. We wanted to get that word out through the media, to the employees, to the families of the youth. And I want to emphasize that I was disappointed by the lack of legislative support today, the fact that we are unable to issue a contract that has been appropriately through the bidding process, and here we are at the final hour without action by the legislature. This has resulted in us taking this executive action today, and I think one thing that we can learn from this is that we have to have quicker action if we're going to run the government, avoid shutdowns, issue contracts in a timely fashion, and manage the state. We've got to be able to use the usual procurement process, and that process be honored by the legislature that reviews it. With that, I'll ask Director Gillespie if she has any comments to add.
Just simply to say that we appreciate the governor's quick response on this. We felt like it was extremely important for the families of the youth in these centers, as well as for the employees there and for the vendors who provide services every day to these facilities, to know that they will indeed continue to serve and that there will be no break in service on the 1st of January. So we felt like it was important to get that out, and we appreciate the governor's quick decision-making on this, and we extremely are grateful to the work at DFNA and our sister agencies for working with us to figure out how we as a state can continue to provide these needed services.
Dr. Walther.
I just want to say that DFNA will be working along with the governor and Director Gillespie to implement this plan by the 1st of January. We'll do everything we can to make it work. So thank you.
Are there any questions?
Is there any possibility that you're looking at still finding a way to award this contract, or separate from this process, or is this basically just the way going forward for the next 6 months?
The process has ended, and so the state will take over these facilities. We will operate those, And the legislature, in essence, killed the bid process.
So what kind of burden on the state will that be to run these facilities?
Well, first of all, we run facilities now. We've got program managers. They're good at this. They know how to care for people. This will stretch them thin. But I'm really proud, and I've got a lot of the DHS folks here, and they stepped up to the plate and said, we can handle this. It's important for our youth. And so I applaud them in this, but it's certainly, well, I'll let Cindy comment on that.
It indeed was this indeed was a plan put together by all of the divisions at DHS today. They all gathered together. We do run facilities. Over half of our employees, as you know, over 3,000 of our employees work at facilities now. We run ASH, the State Psychiatric Hospital. We run the Arkansas Health Center. We run the 5 Human Development Centers. So this is not something that is foreign to us. This is what we do. And those divisions stepped in. We are going to put in place experienced facility managers to help work with DYS on this project from over in those areas. Also note that, as the governor said, the employees that are currently there at the facilities, our intention is to work with each of them for them to continue working with us as employees in this process. And so the staffing that is there will continue in place with our experienced facilities oversight coming into play to manage.
What is the cost of this, and where's that going to come from?
We have funding in the budget, obviously, for the contract that is not being done.
So I guess just make sure I understand, so the employees that these facilities right now, are they, starting January 1st, they'll be state employees rather than contractors?
That's correct. Of course, any employee has the right to say, we work for the contractor, we don't want to move over to the state, but they're very good employees, they love their job, and so we would expect a smooth transition over to the state. And that's what the teams will be working at beginning next week as they start meeting with the employees and see the facilities and work in that transition.
And the pay will be the same?
That I would suspect it will be equivalent. I think we have to look at all those issues. We just got this responsibility today, so I think that's one of the things they'll be reviewing.
Besides your desire to have the legislature approve the contract, did you have any differences in opinion between how the legislature saw the contract and how you viewed it?
Well, I mean, first, there is a separation of powers issue here. Legislature appropriates, we execute. And we have to execute on contracts in a timely fashion. We have to run a business. And the legislative review process that was passed by law is cumbersome. It is lengthy. Sometimes they don't have a quorum. Sometimes they don't meet. It can be delayed. And then you have lobbyists work in the system to say, we want this person to get it. We want somebody else to get it. And that it all fundamentally violates the procurement process that we try to set up that is rules-based and is based upon qualifications and scoring. And that's challenged, and it's been reviewed, and we have Larry Walther's team that does a great job in the procurement office. And so the law that was passed says that the legislature reviews a contract. It doesn't say they have to review and approve. It doesn't say they have to review and agree with. It just says they review. I have questions about whether that law is even constitutional, and we reserve the right to challenge that in the future. But we want to have a cooperative relationship with the legislature. We have a lot of things that go before them, and so this is in essence an accommodation, and actually accommodation is not the right word. It is a result of the action that was taken when they did not approve this process. The contract ends, and so we're left with few options, and this is the one that we think is the best for the youth involved.
What happens after the 6-month period? If you prefer to take it for 6 months, what happens after that?
Well, I believe in utilizing the expertise of the private sector. There's a lot of benefits to it, but during this 6 months, we're going to gain a lot of hands-on experience with the youth in these facilities. And so if the decision is made to move forward with returning this to the private sector, we're going to be able to provide a better oversight and better direction for it because of that experience. And so we just want to be able to reserve judgments and evaluate it during the next 6 months. I think it's too early in the process to know exactly what steps we'll take it down the road.
Do you foresee a new bidding process starting all over again and just possibly going again through the procurement process and not being reviewed, or are we getting rid of the reviews, or?
Well, this bidding process is ended. It is over with. Again, it was bid, it was selected, it was challenged, it was rebid, another protest, and that was affirmed, all by the Office of Procurement. Then it went into legislative review, and they failed to review it and to sign off on it.
I guess I wasn't clear. I was asking, after the 6 months, is there going to be a whole entire new bidding process, or?
If there is a new procurement at the end of 6 months, it will be a new process. Yes. Thank you.
Governor, unrelated, the Supreme Court put out a resolution today opposing any effort to end popular election of justices and judges. I mean, you've expressed interest, or at least some support for that idea. What do you think about that?
I have no comment. I mean, the Supreme Court thought it was a little unusual that they commented on a political matter, but that's their prerogative, and that's something that the legislature may or may not consider as an amendment to be offered to people, so we'll just see how that develops.
Do you still support the idea of moving for merit selection of justices?
I'll be careful in my terminology that I select for Supreme Court judges a different process based upon experience, but I don't think there's a consensus as to what that process should be, and I want to see how that develops. Yes?
What's your understanding for the reasoning behind why the legislature wouldn't sign off on the contract?
You'll have to speak to them as to any thoughts they had on that.
Were you happy with how the centers have been run in the past?
I think the DHS will have to comment more on it. I think there was a consensus there needed to be more services. I think that was, but fundamentally, what we're trying to do in the executive branch is to not just renew contracts consistently by incumbents for decades and decades. We want to have an open bidding process periodically, and so that was a big mover of this, so that anybody, the incumbent and others, could bid on it, and that's what we did. That's just a natural part of how we govern, is trying to increase the number of open bid opportunities, and that's what this reflected.
Can you tell us, I guess maybe a better question for you, but what the youth in these centers are being, whether it's treated for, or kind of what their condition is?
Sure. And I can, we do have our DYS director here, and so she can also speak to this. But the youth that are in custody with us are youth that have been remanded to our custody through the judicial system, right? So this is a situation where they have been, we are now caring for them because a judge has essentially put them in our care.
Thank you. I'm Betty Goomam. I'm the new DYS director. All of these youth have been adjudicated delinquent and committed to DYS through juvenile court or circuit judge. So many of them have behavioral issues, mental health issues, some substance abuse issues. We do a thorough assessment when they come in, and treatment plans, and then provide whatever they need. So we have 7 of these programs around the state, plus our Alexander program that provides a variety of services that the youth need.
And what types of services, just to give a handful, what types of services are provided to these youth?
Type of service provided to the youth?
Yeah, depending on their condition. I mean,
It may be
service
individual
provided.
therapy or ultimately family therapy, group therapy, behavior management, just casework, whatever. We try to do it individualized on the youth in terms of what they need.
Y'all have been good to give us a moment late in the day on Friday. Thank you for joining us today. we'll be available as anything afterwards.